Hello, good evening and welcome to the Hot Seat. In the Hot Seat today we have Mr. W.A. Vijayawardena, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Very good evening, Mr. Vijayawardena.
Good evening, and it's my pleasure for us.
Thank you very much for being here. Mr. Vijayawardena, we've had all sorts of consternation about the so-called central bank bond scandal. It resulted in the former governor, Mr. Mahendran, not being given a new contract. So his contract, which was he was serving the end of Mr. Cabral's term, came to an end, and he was naturally moved out of the central bank. He wasn't sacked, he wasn't removed, he was merely not appointed again. That may be so. But what about the money? The Auditor General says that there's been a loss. How do we recover that? What can we do?
For us, the question of recovering this money doesn't arise here because it's a market transaction. In the market transaction, according to the Auditor General, one of the primary dealers has profited out of the money which the government should have got. So the money has already gone.
Right.
Government has lost according to the general, and also the money had already gone, and the particular primary dealer has got the benefit.
Right.
So we cannot recover it now, but what we can do is that if there is an irregularity as opinionated by the Auditor General, one of the law enforcement agencies dealing in corruption can look into this,
right,
find out who is responsible for the loss for the government, and then they can take legal action against the people who are responsible for that.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we can do. Otherwise, there's no any mechanism for anyone to take this money back,
right,
for the government. No recovery at all.
So what you're saying is we could, one of these agencies like maybe the FCID or the CID or the Bribery Commission, someone can take action.
Yeah, of course, people who have the power to examine the phone calls, the discussions,
yeah,
summon people and get statements. If people contradict in their statements, to re-question them, then they will have to forward whatever they have found in their investigations to the Attorney General, and Attorney General will decide whether action can be taken against any particular person. Then it's up to the courts of law in this country to make its own judgment.
Right.
That is how we have to deal with, because if there is an irregularity that has happened, and if it has caused a loss to the state, the loss to the state means loss to the people of this country.
Yeah.
And then we have to take action through the normal legal channels to assign responsibility to people who have been responsible for that, and then maybe they will be sent to jail or whatever the punishment that the courts might wish to impose on them.
Right. But it sounds terribly unfair that somebody who's given a job of work to do, and in essence is the banker of the people, the people's banker, is the governor of the central bank. And it sounds just almost too much to imagine that the governor and his team have made various decisions which are causing a loss to the people, and not only for 1 or 2 years, but in the matter of the first bond, for 30 years. So are we supposed to just sit back and take it? There must be something that the people can do.
Yeah, in the very first instance for us, this is the responsibility of the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, because we don't have an institution called the Monetary Board in law.
Right.
In law, what we have is the Monetary Board and the institution called the Central Bank in law, because what we have the Monetary Board, which is the legal person, which is the incorporated institution in Sri Lanka. So, in terms of the Monetary Law Act, it is the members of the Monetary Board who have to first look into this type of an affair and then safeguard the monies belonging to the people. It is up to them. Now, in my opinion, the Monetary Board has failed. Monetary Board has failed, and Monetary Board, when the first scam, the news about the first scam came to light, immediately the members of the Monetary Board would have resolved that they should conduct an impartial inquiry even before the Prime Minister decides to appoint a lawyers committee.
Right.
So there should have been an internal inquiry, and that internal inquiry, usually what happens is the Monetary Board normally gets someone outside to examine it, because there's a heavy volume of technical matters relating to the issue of a bond.
Yeah.
Therefore, somebody who is knowledgeable of the operations of the bond market, the technical issues relating to the issue of bonds, will have to be appointed by the Monetary Board to investigate into that. So that particular investigation didn't take place, and what happened was then the Prime Minister had to appoint a committee, because he had promised in Parliament that he would actually look into that. But what happened was the terms of reference given to that committee did not exactly relate to the particular bond scam.
I see.
Because the terms of reference was that the committee was asked to examine the bond issues from year 2012 onwards, not the particular issue. Therefore, it was a diluted and watered down terms of reference. So that is where we have gone wrong.
Mr. Jawardner, so on the one side you say that it is not possible to recover the money because why? Why is that?
That is because once the money, because it has been earned by the particular primary dealer by way of profits that he has made out of this transaction.
Right.
And he may have already used it.
Right.
And also, in the case of the primary dealer, they don't have assets.
Right.
So even if courts decides to recover this money, they will have to go for the personal assets of the directors.
And is that an option?
It's an option, but of course you can't do that, because even the assets of the personal directors may not be sufficient to pay out. So that is why the question of recovery does not arise. But in all probability, what should happen is that if the nation believes that there has been a irregularity, country's auditing watchdog, the Auditor General, has given his opinion to Parliament and also court, that there has been a loss, and he has already attempted at estimating the loss also. So because of this reason, what the government can do today is that the government has lost money. So if somebody has caused a deliberate loss to the government, it's up to the government to make a decision today. The government will have to take action, and as we have already mentioned earlier, the country's law enforcement agencies can be brought in to do the investigations and take them to courts of law. That's how it should happen.
So that is the option that is now available.
Yeah.
I see. But what about the fact, how do we prevent this thing happening again?
Yeah, this is the most important thing for us, because already it happened in February in 2015.
Yeah.
Since we didn't take any action against that particular instance for the people who had been responsible for that, it happened again in a different form in March in 2016.
Right.
So it was repeated. And when it was repeated in March 2016, the loss to the most of the other people who are involved in the market, like the Employees Provident Fund, Employees Trust Fund, and Insurance Corporation and so forth, was much bigger than the loss that the government had to incur in the previous bond
in the first one.
So therefore, there had been people who had lost in the market. So what happens is that when people feel that there are always opportunities for some primary dealers or from participants in the market to get themselves enriched out of their own things, people lose their confidence in the market. So that is why the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka is primarily responsible for restoring that confidence. So they have failed in doing their job.
But that is a remarkable ailment. and a remarkable result.
Remarkable result, yes.
How does one change the monetary board?
No, monetary board, of course, in terms of the Monetary Law Act, under which the members of the monetary board are appointed, they cannot be removed. Because just like a Supreme Court judge who has been appointed to the Supreme Court, if there is any misbehavior by a member of the monetary board, there is a special procedure to deal with that. So therefore, they have the assurance and the guarantee of their job. So they can act independently.
Right.
So when you select people to monetary board, you have to select the most trustworthy and also the people who can do the job.
And who will speak up.
Who will stand out and who will speak up and who will not obey the wishes of a particular governor or particular politician in the country, and who will do the job for the nation, because it is the people of this country who have placed their trust in the members of the monetary board for protecting the financial system, for protecting the money that they are having. So all these things will depend on how far the members of the monetary board will act independently according to their own conscience for us.
On that note, we'll take another short break. Don't go away. This is The Hot Seat. And welcome back to The Hot Seat, and today it's with Mr. W.A. Wijewardena, the former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Mr. Wijewardena, it's all very worrying. The people have been basically shortchanged to a fabulous tune of money, running into billions, that's with a B. And you're telling me now that there is no way we can recover this money. So, what's the next best thing?
What we have to do for us is we have to introduce, strengthen the institution called the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, so that we can avoid the repeat exercise, repeat performance of a particular scandal that has happened in Sri Lanka. Because when you select people to monetary board, it's up to the Minister of Finance, the Cabinet and the government to pick up the most suitable person to do his job, rather than playing for the particular officer or the politician.
Or importing your friends in.
Yeah, something like that. I mean,
unless your friends are
in the past,
suitable.
in the past, what had happened is that I am referring to the period before year 2000.
Right.
When the monetary board members were selected. They had zeroed on the most suitable person to serve on the monetary board.
Right.
But what has happened is, with the intervention of politicians and political interventions in the affairs of the central bank, that particular principle has now not been followed. So as a result, people who have no knowledge of what a central bank is, who have no knowledge of how the financial system operates, who have no knowledge of what is meant by monetary policy and the responsibility of the monetary board members in protecting the monies belonging to the people, have been appointed to the monetary board, and as a result they have become somewhat the people, a group of people who can be maneuvered by outside forces. So this has to stop. But of course there is another element for us that we can bring in this particular instance, because in the case of modern central banking practices now, the affairs of the managing boards of central banks are no longer secretive now.
Right.
They are transparent. Now, for example, in the case of Bank of England, when the Monetary Policy Committee meets, the minutes are released to the members of the public within a matter of 14 days.
Right.
So that public will come to know whether the particular member of the monetary board has actually done his job well at the monetary policy meetings.
I see.
Because what he has spoken, whether he has actually given his reasoning for agreeing or disagreeing. Now, for example, now the monetary board has to sit today or tomorrow to to decide on the monetary policy package which Sri Lanka will have in the next month period.
Right.
And what we see is that there will be a press release by the central bank which will tell us that the monetary board has decided to keep the interest rate fixed or to increase the interest rate or even the lower the interest rates. And we don't know what discussion that has taken place inside the monetary board, and as members of the public today, we have a right to know about it.
And at the moment it is not that right?
No, not in Sri Lanka. Not in Sri Lanka. We have to introduce this kind of legislation to
So under the legislation right now?
No, not even the Right to Information Act, you can't get that, because in the case of the Right to Information Act, this has been one of the exempted subjects.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, central banking, money, credit, financial sector policy, exchange rate policy is outside, and person can get the information after the lapse of a period of 10 years.
Oh, I see.
I mean, after 10 years, what's the use of it? It's only for an academic exercise.
That's right. After 10 years,
after
what
10
can
years.
we do?
Yeah.
So it sounds as though the people are once again being left in the lurch.
In the lurch. I mean, no one knows what is happening. I mean, if a person on the serving the monetary board will do his job well, if he is subject to public scrutiny,
I see.
whether he is doing a professional job.
Yeah.
Now you can recall for us, according to the media,
Yeah.
in the report that Auditor General had submitted to Parliament, he had made a very damaging remark about the previous governor.
Yeah.
He had said the way that the governor has behaved doesn't demonstrate that he has acted with due professional due diligence.
Yeah.
So which is a very damaging statement.
Indeed it is.
I mean, the same accusation can be made against the monetary board members also. They also have not acted with due professional due diligence, because it's a very bad thing. But of course, when what they discuss at the monetary board is made known to the members of the public, they are subject to public scrutiny. Media can criticize what they have done, what they have discussed, and how they have come to the judgment. And the independent analysts can make criticisms. Then they are a little more alert when they do the job, and they will be a little more careful when they perform the duties that a monetary board member should.
So what you're saying is we need to add a few checks and balances that kick in.
Exactly. We have to amend the Monetary Law Act, number one. Number two, the selection process of the monetary board members and the governor will have to be changed now, because in the modern central banking, the governor is selected at least 1 year before the incumbent governor's term expires.
I see.
In Sri Lanka, you would have noted when Governor Mahendran retired, the new governor was appointed 2 days after his retirement.
I see.
Now, even a country like, say, India, the neighboring country, they are much better than Sri Lanka. They appointed the new governor 2 weeks before the incumbent governor retired from his position.
Right.
So, likewise, at least the market knows who will be the governor. So, market can get credit to the vision and the aspirations of the new governor, and also, therefore, there is no market shock. Now, in a country like UK, Canada, France, Australia, the new governor is appointed 1 year before the incumbent governor retires.
Right.
And there's a process. The process in the sense they call for nominations. People can nominate people. They appoint a headhunting committee, selection committee, and the selection committee will have lengthy discussions with the people who have been shortlisted. Now, even in India, when the new governor, Dr. Patel, was appointed as the governor, there was a marathon interview done by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his New Delhi office with 4 shortlisted candidates.
I see.
And they have zeroed on Governor Patel after eliminating the other 3 candidates. And other 3 candidates are equally good. So that is how you select the best person to hold the office of the government.
How is it selected here then?
That is the thing. I mean, in Sri Lanka, what is happening, all secretive.
Yeah.
You can actually, for us, you can pick up a person from the street and appoint him as the governor, because that's the way that the things happen.
That's the way it is designed.
So that's with much disastrous results.
We'll take a short break there. Don't go away. This is the Hot Seat. And welcome back to the hot seat, where our guest tonight is Mr. W.A. Vijayawardena, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. So now, Mr. Vijayawardena, you've explained how unlikely it is to be able to physically recover the money that has been lost, but you've also said that there may be a case to go and hold these responsible, these people who acted irresponsibly, to hold them accountable, to hold them responsible, make them responsible. And that includes, I suppose, the Section 70 of the Bribery Act. So that itself should put the fear of God into these people who are trying to scam the country.
In the future, yes.
In the future. But what about this? We've had the governor who's not given a new term, so he's gone off. We have a new governor who is apparently suited for everybody. But what about this? What about those officials who were very much party to this whole transactions, and yet they were transferred out of their respective jobs? I know you've told us before that every 5 years you get a transfer to widen your expertise. But in this case, it cannot be that so many people, all of them, were due to be transferred out on this one day.
Yeah, in fact, it's again a matter for an outside body to investigate for us, because if it is in the routine transfers that the central bank makes, then there's no question that it's a normal transfer. But if this particular transfer list was made extraordinary and it's not the normal transfers that normally takes in the central bank, then of course there is something wrong. But in my opinion, if wrong decision has been made by the management of the central bank, usually central banks unions would protest. Now in this case I haven't seen any protest in public. Probably they may have done it in person when they have met the top management of the central bank, but in public I haven't seen any protest done by the unions.
I see.
But of course from the point of view of the officials who have been transferred, it's good for them in my view, because they work in a different department, they get new exposure, new experience. It widens their knowledge of the central bank.
But here we have one lady in particular, her name sticks out in my mind, Mrs. Siriwardena, I think. She's
Siniviratne.
Yes, Siniviratne,
yeah,
the lady was at the PDD.
Yeah, public debt superintendent.
Yes, she was the superintendent. Now, honestly, this lady deserves a very high civilian honor that should be bestowed upon maybe by the president. Nevertheless, it's on record that she's the one who said to the governor, no, we can't possibly take 20 billion because it will ruin the market, or whatever she said. And he then relented and said, oh, well, take 10 billion then. But this lady was at the public debt department. She's now transferred out to, I think, to the information department.
No, she is now actually in the information technology department, yes, which is actually a promotion for her, in my view.
Right.
It's actually the information technology department is also an important department in the central bank. And she has been the director there now, and in my view, it's better for her. I mean, nobody can complain. I mean, I don't know whether...
Better for her because it may not be as contentious, but this is a lady who demonstrated a strong commitment to what she was doing at the PDD, and made it very clear that she wasn't going to be swayed by the governor's presence.
You have to go back to the origin for us in this case, because the normally a 30-year bond is issued by the central bank not for the purpose of selling it to the members of the public, because members of the public are not interested in putting their money for a 30-year period. The appetite for a 30-year period bond comes from not from the members of the public, but from the institutions like the Employees Provident Fund, Insurance Corporation and so forth.
Yeah.
So that is why the central bank had very correctly put in the advertisement that they are going to issue a bond for 1 billion Sri Lanka rupees.
Right.
In the past, what had happened was that when there has been, excess demand, they might go for 2 times of the value that they had declared in the original tender board notice. Maybe they would have accepted 2 billion. But this present case, what has happened is the decision to take 10 billion has been 10 times of the original issue, which information had not been made available to the other primary dealers. That is where the things had gone wrong. For example, according to the information furnished by this lawyer's report, in their lawyer's report, National Savings Bank has also bid for the particular bond, and they had bid assuming that the government will get only 1 billion.
I see.
So therefore, they were not privy to the information that it will be enhanced up to 10 billion. So that is why the Superintendent of Public Debt, Mrs. Deepa Seneviratne, by exercising her own due diligence, had advised the governor, according to the media report, that we should not go for this 20 billion and we must actually stick to the original 2 billion. That is the information that is available in public domain.
Right.
So in that sense, I think she has done her duty. So we have to, I think, congratulate her for being, upright and giving the good advice.
For
proper advice to
actually
the
realizing that she did have something called a backbone, and committed to her job. And isn't that rare?
No, I mean, not only her, I mean, all central bank officers, I have experience with them in the central bank, Farah, they always rise up to the occasion and the need. I mean, even in other departments also, the officers, if there is something irregular or something that may not work, they will raise it with the governor or with the deputy governors. So it's not unusual for central bank officer to, because their discipline is that. They have been in that particular field, they know their job, and an unusual advice is given to them, they always go against it.
I see.
They point out the futility of that particular proposal.
The way you observe these proceedings going on at COPE and the rest of what is happening around us, or around Temperatries and President's office, wherever that is, as you observe all these things, do you think that there is a real chance, a real possibility of someone, whoever it may be, of someone being held accountable, and some court of law saying, yes, look, we've looked at it, you are responsible, and I think we're going to give you a token fine of whatever?
Yeah, but of course the current investigation is being done by COPE. Farah, the COPE is only an advisory body to Parliament. They will come up with their report, and we don't know what that report might contain. If they find a particular officer or group of officers who are responsible for that, they will name them in the report. Once the report is submitted to Parliament, it is up to Parliament to take action. It's up to Parliament to take action and refer it to one of the law enforcement agencies which we have been talking about, and carry it forward. So that is how that is where it stands right now, but of course we don't know what would happen in the future, because in the past the experience of COPE has been that the COPE had filed voluminous reports on so many irregular practices done by public bodies, and they have just been filed away, and Parliament has not even taken notice of that, and they have become academic exercises where the media and others might point out, they quote from the report and they might point out, that's all.
The future looks frustrating. Is that the best way of describing it?
Exactly, future looks frustrating, because we have to have very strong institutions in Sri Lanka, Farah, because that is one of the important things that we have to have in a good governance regime, because good governance doesn't thrive unless we have institutions which are able to criticize and pinpoint the irregular practices done by the public authorities. If we don't have that for us, it is frustrating.
Well, on that note, Mr. Vijayawardena, thank you very much for being in the hot seat.
You are welcome.
And we look forward to welcoming you on our network another time, another place. Thank you. And that's it for the hot seat. Do watch us. We broadcast at 9:30 on Wednesday nights, soon after the news, all on TV1. Take care.